Let's talk about harmonization and reharmonization in music a, a little bit. Uh, you know, harmonization and reharmonization is actually an extension of your personality, an extension of you, an extension of your identity. The way you harmonize a song will be different from the way another musician harmonizes it. So it is very important for us to understand the nature of harmonization and reharmonization in music. You know, if you open a music, a hymn book, for example, in the hymn book, most of the songs are harmonized using only the three primary chords of a scale. For example, of the major scale, which is 1, the root, and chord number 1 built on the root of the major scale, and then the subdominant, chord number 4, which is built on the fourth degree of the major scale, and chord number 5, which is built, which is actually the dominant of the major scale. So in the hymn book, most of the songs will contain those three primary chords. So in the C major, for example, you're going to have the chord number 1 built on the root is going to be C, E, G, and the subdominant chord number 4 is going to be F major, F, A, C, and chord number 5, which is G, can be G major, but most of the time it's going to be a dominant. It's going to be a dominant chord like G, dominant 7th, or another version of it. So if you go in if you go into harmonize a song, you know, using only those three primary chords, and it will be okay, because in a simple song played in a major key, all the notes in the major scale are also included in those three primary chords. That is actually diatonic to the major scale you're working with. For example, the C major scale. So in this case, it will be easy to harmonize and to play a simple song like in a hymn book. So, you know, so but you're not going to stop there, because more than likely you want to play, you want to make you want to make your music more colorful. You want to make your music more sophisticated. So you want to, like, you want to build. You might more than likely you're going to want to build on those primary, on those three primary chords. And then this is when you're going to, like, based on those on those three primary chords, you're gonna play advanced harmonization. You're gonna play advanced chords in order to make your music more colorful, more contemporary, uh, more uh, more contemporarily uh, sounding, and then for people to enjoy to enjoy the music that you play. So, uh, how do one question one question that you may be asking yourself: how do people, look at what is written in the hymn book, for example, and then play um, all those beautiful contemporary chords? How do they do that? Like the musicians, like the keyboard players, for example, in the Black American churches. How do they do that? Well, when uh, when looking at the music written in a hymn book, for example, most of uh, most of what is written in the hymn book is not really important. Okay, in fact, um, you are not going to be playing what you're looking at, what you see, what you're seeing, if you have in mind to play contemporary sounding uh, harmonizations, contemporary sounding chords. You are not going to play what you're looking at in the hymn book at all. So when you have a hymn book in front of you, and your goal is going to be more than likely to uh, to concentrate, to focus only on the melody and and the bass. Okay, so you're looking at 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 uh, at a piece of music in a hymn book, and then you look at the arrangement, the instrumentation, stuff like that, and then but you're not gonna play. You're not gonna play the music as written. So in that case, what you're gonna do is by focusing your attention on only the melody and the bass line, because the bass line in a piece of music is actually the backbone of the music harmonization. So you what you're going to do is eliminate all those everything that is between the melody and the bass, because whatever information that is found between the bass, the melody and the bass, those are not important to you, because this is those notes are not our, they are somebody else's notes. They are somebody else's harmonization. That's not yours. That's not that's not the harmonization that you want to play, because your harmonization is your identity. Your harmonization is your personality. So 10 people, 100 people can harmonize the same piece of music, okay? Then they all will sound uh, differently, okay? So that, let's say, just like I just told you, if 100 people harmonize the same piece of music, if you are familiar with one of those with at least one or two or three of those people, you will be able to know to distinguish between the harmonizations of the three people that whose music you are familiar with, because of the harmonizations, because they don't harmonize the same way. They have, so usually you're going to recognize somebody's music by the way by his or her style of harmonization. Okay, so this is very important. So uh, the let's see, one when you harmonize a song, so basically it is better to rely on the Roman numbers as opposed to the letter names of the scale of the notes in the scale you're working with. Like if you're working with a major scale, for example, so you have 7 notes in the scale. So for each note, there's a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, until you reach the octave, which is 8. But actually, you are dealing with 7 notes. Okay, so basically, if let's say you are going to use the bass line to harmonize or to reharmonize a piece of music. Basically, what you're going to look at, you're going to look at the notes. Okay, you're going to look at the notes in the bass lines, in the bass line. So what you do in the bass, what you do, you label every note in the bass line. I'm talking about letter name. Okay, if you see C, okay, you write C. If you see F, you write F. If you see G, you write G. And whatever note you see on the bass line, you label that note its letter name. Then after that, you go. Let's say it's a piece of music in C major. Now that you have labeled all the notes in the bass line, now it's time to, well, you label them with the letter names like C, D, E, and so on. But now you want to label them with numbers. Okay, so this is where the major scale, like the C major scale, comes in. In order for you to compare all the notes you already labeled with letters, now you have your scale with numbers, your C major scale with 7 numbers. Now you're going to compare the notes in the bass line and the numbers that represent the notes in the bass line to see to find to find your chords. Okay, so after you label, now you compare the notes. Now if you see if you have a C note on the bass line, okay, now you come to your C major scale. Okay, you see C is note number 1, so you know, okay, you know you're gonna play. You can play a chord, okay, using the C major chord. Okay, then you keep on, and then you keep on. If you see a note F, then you know you can use the note F as another chord, okay. If you see the note G, then and you have the note G in your, you have the note G, which is note number 5, and then now you know, since you already label, now you look at G in the bass line, that's note number 5, then you know note number 5 on the note number 5 in the key of C major or any major scale, that's the subdominant. In the case of G, so that's the G major or G dominant 7. So now after comparing the bass line and the Roman numbers in the C major scale, for example, now you know what chords you're going to use. Okay, you're going to use the primary chords, which is C, C, the root chord, then a F, the subdominant, and the G. Now you got your basic. Harmonization. But now you don't really want to play those simple chords. Okay, now it's time for you to reharmonize the song, the piece of music or the song, based on on those 3 primary chords you just found. So how are you going to reharmonize those three chords: C major, F major, G major? There are many ways you can do that. You can, for example, use extensions of either of those 3 chords. like C major, you can use extension 9. You can use extension sharp 11. You can use extension 13. Okay, to add colors to your basic C major triad, the C major chord. And you can also use the before you even play let's say C major 9, you can play C major 7th by adding the 7th degree of the scale to your triad, to your simple triad. Make it a C major 7 chord, and then you can even add, you can use C major add 9. You can use C major add 6, C major add 6 9. You know, all that kind of extensions to make your chords more contemporary, more sophisticated. You can also what you're doing now, you reharmonizing the bass, the music based on the harmonization that you extracted from the bass line. Okay, now another way you can make your sound more contemporary is by playing passing chords. You know, most of the time when you play passing chords, that means if you're playing, you know, let's say you're playing C major, then you want to go to, let's say you want to go to D minor, for example, you can use like D, you can use D flat, you know, D flat, whatever, maybe D flat dominant 7, whatever type, and then you go to D minor 7th, or whatever type of D minor that you're gonna play. So that you playing C, you C major, then you play C sharp, D flat, that C sharp, which is also D flat, is a passing chords to the D minor, D major, whatever type of chord you want to play on the note D. So that means on the passing chord, you don't stay too long. You don't stay too long on that note, okay? Because it is a dissonant sound. So because you want to resolve quickly on the consonant chord, and you can also use chord substitutions. Okay, that means when you have a chord, and then you replace that chord with another chord that maybe has, you know, notes in common with the initial chord. Okay, chord substitutions. Okay, let's see, in a major scale, well, in any scale, as a matter of fact, you know, you can build a chord on each note of the scale. Okay, but remember, each note in a scale, okay, or each chord in a scale, in a major scale, for example, has a function. Okay, a function of either root, dominant, subdominant. That's it. That's okay. Each note in a scale has a function. So that means you may have, you know, three or two notes in the same scale that have the same function, the same function. For example, in a major scale, like in the C major scale, for example, the the uh, the D note, or a chord built on the D note, D minor 7, for example, you know, if you play the D minor 7th, then you play F major 7th. If you break down those two chords, you're going to see they have, mostly they have the same notes. Okay, they have the same notes. So within the major scale, you can depending on the music, on the context of the music you're playing, you can substitute those chords one for the other. Okay, and just like the chord built on the sixth degree of the C major of the major scale, or C major scale, for example, which is a minor chord. Okay, which is minor chord, and if you play, let's say in the key of C major, if you play A minor 7th, and then you play C major 7th, and if you break them down, you can see that those two chords have notes, you know, in common. They basically have the same notes. So you could substitute, those two chords for one. For you can substitute for one to you can substitute them, to one for another, depending on the context of the music. And then they have basically the same function, okay, like the D minor 7th, the F major 7 is a subdominant. So if you can substitute that chord for D minor 7th, so D minor 7 is also, its function is also a subdominant, the same as the root. The root is the root. Its function is the root. So A minor 7 that you can substitute for A minor 7th, it is also considered as the root, because that's why you can substitute those chords. And also chord substitution, you also have tritone chord substitutions. Okay, you can do that. You know what tritone is, in a major scale, for example, you have you have your major scale with I believe you have six tones. Okay, then when you play, if you're playing your major scale, let's say you're playing your C chromatic scale. Okay, once you reach sharp 4, which is also sharp 11, which is also flat 5. At that point, you're at the middle of the C chromatic scale. You are halfway. So since the the scale, either the major scale, well, since the major scale, okay, the major scale has 6 tones. When you are playing F sharp, which is also G flat, you are at half of the you are at halfway within the major scale or the C major scale. Okay, so that's tritone. That's the point of tritone. Okay, F sharp, which is also G flat in the key of C or C major. Another chord substitution is the you can have direct substitution. For example, you can substitute a major chord for a minor chord and a minor chord for a major chord, okay, of the same type. Let's say, okay, an example, if you have a C major chord, okay, you are allowed to substitute to substitute C major with C minor. That's a direct substitution, even though the types are different. One is minor, one is major, but it's C for C. That's a direct substitution. So you can also have indirect substitution when you substitute a chord with a totally different chord. Okay, that's direct substitution. Let's say you have C major, and all of a sudden, okay, you substitute it with A minor. That's an indirect substitution. All right. Let's see. You also have diatonic chords substitutions. Okay, what that means is that, let's say, for example, you're using the C major scale, and on each note of the C major scale, you build a chord. And I can give you, well, as a matter of fact, on the C major scale, I'm going to tell you the type of chord that is built on each note. You have the C major scale. Okay, on the C note, when you build your chord in intervals of third, which is a combination of major thirds and minor thirds. So the chord built on the root, which is C. I'm talking now. We're using C as an example. C major. Now you're going to play 4-note chords. Okay, 4-note chord, not triad. Now you're adding extension to the triads. Okay, in interval of interval of thirds, major, a combination of major thirds and minor thirds. So on the first note of the C major scale, which is C, when you build your chords, you're gonna get C major 7th. Okay, then you go to D. On the D chord, same thing. You're going to build your chords in interval of thirds. You're going to play D minor seventh. Okay, on the third note, which is E, is going to be E minor seventh chord. Now on the fourth, you're going to play, which is F, you're going to play F major seventh. On the fifth, which is G, you can play a G major seventh chord, but most of the time you're going to play G dominant seventh, or if you can add extension 9, 11, 13, okay, stuff like that. Then we're on the sixth note, which is A. The chord that is built on the sixth note is A minor seventh. Then on the seventh note, which is B, it's going to be B minor seven flat 5. And now you're going to return to the root in octave, which is also a C major seventh chord. Okay, so if you want to spell the modes in the key of C major, the C major seventh chord corresponds to the Ionian mode. The Ionian mode is the major scale. The D minor seventh chord is related to the D Dorian mode. The E minor seventh is related to the E Phrygian mode. The F major seventh corresponds to the Lydian mode. The G dominant seventh is related to the G Mixolydian mode. The A minor seventh chord is related to the Aeolian mode. The B flat minor seventh chord corresponds to the B Locrian mode, and then back to the C major seventh chord, which is in octave, which is the C major seventh chord. But there are other modes, because if you're using minor scales, whether it is the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, the melodic minor scale, those have modes also. And on each degree, on each note within those scales, you can build a chord. Okay, those have modes also. Okay, all right. Okay, there's another substitution, chord substitution, that I don't want to forget, is the dominant flat 5, dominant 7, flat 5 substitution. That means you can substitute one dominant chord for another dominant chord. Okay, so let me explain. Let's say you're playing G dominant 7th chord, and in the context of the music you're playing, G dominant, the G dominant 7th chord doesn't really fit the context, doesn't really fit what you have in your mind for that particular harmonization. And then you want to find another dominant seventh chord, which is we could be more appropriate for, you know, to that context. Well, you have a lot of options. You could substitute the G dominant seventh chord with a minor chord, for example. But since you want to remain in the dominant, you know, in the dominant seventh, you know, context. So you have an option. You can use another dominant seventh chord that is located, you know, that is located at half step below the fifth of the G dominant seventh chord. What is the fifth of the G dominant seventh chord? Is D. So if you lower D, which is the fifth degree, the fifth note in the G dominant seventh chord, now you got flat D, which is flat 5. Now you can build a chord using the flat 5 as the root, and then you're going to play D flat dominant seventh to substitute G dominant seventh chord. This is called dominant seventh flat 5 chord substitutions. Okay, so there's a lot you can do, but all those things you're doing, all those things I just told you, all those things are based on the fundamentals, which are the 3 primary chords that you have extracted from the bass line, which is actually the cornerstone of the song, of your music harmonization. Now you are reharmonizing the music or the song. All right. So now is when you do that kind of that kind of changes. If you have a piece of music in front of you, and then you want to and all it has is simple chords, and you want to play contemporary chords, then you just remove everything that is between the bass line and the between the melody and the bass line, and then you reharmonize on the bass line. You can also reharmonize on the melody notes, Okay, so on the when you harmonize on the melody notes, it's basically you still have to consider the Roman numbers that of the major scale that you're using. For example, C major scale. Because what you do now, you're not harmonizing on the bass line anymore. Because let's say you have a lead sheet, you have a lead sheet in front of you, and all you have is a melody and maybe some chord symbols. But you got a melody, and then maybe you got notations. Okay, you got a lead sheet, and then with notations, and maybe and sometimes without chord symbols on the measures of the simple melody. And now you want to harmonize the melody. So you do the same thing you did when you were harmonizing on the bass line. You label all the melody notes with their letter names, you know, C, D, E, whatever, and then you compare the notes with your scale, with the Roman, with the numbers, with the numbers related to the notes of the major scale, and then after doing that, then you're going to determine, then you go, now you're going to end up, because if you do the same thing, that you did when you were harmonizing on the bass line, you're going to end up having the same harmonization, which is 1 4 5 1 4 5. Now sometimes you can, there may be 6, 1 4 5 6 and so on. Now it's going to be the same harmonization. Now to harmonize on the melody notes, what you're going to do, you're going to see what notes in the melody lines belongs to the chords that the music is made of. Okay, because the chords are, let's say the chords are C, F, and G, and let's say you have A minor also, C, F, G, and then A minor 6. Now let's say, now what you do, you break down the chords. Okay, C, E, G, then you go to F, A, C, and so on and so on. Now if you see note C as a melody note, so now you go to the chords, to the 4 chords, to see which chord or chords have that C note. Okay, when you do that, then you're going to say, okay, the C major have the C note. Also the F major have the C note, because you got, for the C major chord, you got C, C, E, G, and for the F major chord, the subdominant, you have F, A, C. So in two chords you have the note C. See, now you can choose depending on the context of your music. You have two options. You can use either the C major chord, or the F major chord on that note, on the note C. And it's the same it's the same procedure on each note of the melody. Is by take now if I see one more example before I finish. Let's say you have a melody note D. You got D, okay. That's a melody note. And you want to harmonize on that melody note. You want to harmonize on D. Okay? Now you go to the four chords that you have: C, F, G, and A minor. Which of those four chords has the note D? Well, let's see. C, E, G, no. So C major chord doesn't have the note D. Let's go with the F major. F major, F, A, C. No D there. Alright, let's go with the G. Yes, let's go with the G. G dominant 7. Okay, got G, B, D. Oh, there's a D. Okay, in the G dominant 7 chord. Okay, so let's go for A minor. Okay, A, C, E. A minor 7. A, C, E, and G. That's A minor 7th. Does it have the note D? No. So the only chord among those four chords that contains the note D is G. So for that reason, I'm going to harmonize the melody note D using G dominant 7th. Alright, so I hope you get the point I'm trying to make. I hope you understand everything that I told you on the subject of harmonization and reharmonization. If anywhere in the video I have made an honest mistake, you can use your own experience and judgment to correct the mistake for yourself. I'm going to show you an example of reharmonization. I play on the keyboard. I played a very popular Christian song. What a friend we have in Jesus. So what I did, I read the sheet music and I look at the arrangement. I looked at the arrangement, and there were no chord symbols in the music. All the all it has all it has is the notations and the arrangement. So what I did, but I know because of the key signature, I know it is in the key of F major. So what I did, I wrote down all the chord symbols myself. Basic chord symbols. And here it is. Okay. Okay. There you can see those chords. You can see the chord symbols that I wrote over the measures. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. There you go. Okay. So what I did, then I got on the keyboard and I decided to play, instead of playing the chords, instead of playing simple chords, I decided to add colors to them. And for example, in the first measure, I wrote F, but on the keyboard I think I play F major 7th. And then I think I play I think a B flat. I think I play B flat 7th. I didn't really change. I didn't really make it. I didn't push it too much. And for this dominant C dominant 7th, I think I play C dominant 7 sus 4. This is that's the kind of those are the kinds of changes you can make on the basic chords in order to play contemporary modern harmonization. All right, so that's all. That's it. That's it for today. Actually, for tonight. And I see you another time.